Hello, and welcome to Trust Your Sacred Feminine Flow. I'm your host, Joni Advent Maher, mystic, spiritual midwife, and visionary leadership guide. It's my great pleasure to share inspiring and intimate conversations and emerging wisdom gathered from our collective feminine journey of awakening. My guests are revolutionary women at the cutting edge of both personal and global transformation. I invite you to join us in claiming our sovereignty, changing the world, and flourishing no matter what.
Hi, I'm Shann Vander Leek, award-winning podcaster and podcast coach at podcastbath.com. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Joni for her own podcast, Trust Your Sacred Feminine Flow. Joni partnered up with me many moons ago to dream up her popular podcast. And here we are, 4 years and 100 podcasts later to discuss her awesome body of work. Hey, Joni.
Woo! Hey, Shann! Woo! I'm doing the happy dance.
No doubt. Congratulations. I can just really teleport myself back to our very first training session when you were still uncovering your voice and how much time, and it's gone by so quickly, of course, but to be where we are 100 episodes later and to have the benefit of listening to your body of work as you've been developing it, because I produced your shows. So it's fun for me to be here and to be in this position and talk to you about this milestone. And I'd love for you to share how your podcasting journey has changed the way you show up personally and professionally, because I've noticed a big change over the last 4 years, and I know that you must have.
Well, it's so interesting because I think back even earlier to when I was listening to your podcast before I even dreamed up my own podcast, and I could feel kind of this passion rising in me and this desire to be a part of the conversation, and at the same time having this, I'm going to say, like wet blanket of fear. And that whole piece about owning my voice, trusting my voice, sharing my voice, and the way that stepping forward and saying, I want to throw my hat in the ring to be a part of this conversation, despite the fear, and to work my way through the process. Reflecting back on my episodes, I can really see my evolution and the evolution in our collective based on those guests that I had. And so for me personally, I am showing up, owning who I am unapologetically. Which, yes, and if you know anything about my story, that's a big effing deal.
Yes, it is.
It is. And professionally, it's same thing. And I feel like I have a unique perspective to help those women who, I call them kind of the either reluctant leaders or those who, not that dissimilar to me, know there's something that they're meant to share, but they don't necessarily think of themselves, or the world may not even see them as leaders in the world per se, but they have tremendous wisdom. Like I'm the champion for those women.
Yes, you are. And you've had so many wonderful conversations over the years. You have just come into your own as an interviewer, and you can really tell it's like a fireside chat, and it's just very real. And that's important. It's very important to me as a listener, for all of us, if we are going to take the stage, to be as transparent as we can be and to show up where we're at. And you've done a beautiful job of that, of not
Mm,
trying to fill a persona, but to just show up as who you are and with whom you invite, and to have a conversation that can support many. And then, of course, your teaching podcasts as well, your own
mhm,
wisdom teachings that come forth. I wonder, is
mm.
there a particular interview question that continues to come up for you with each conversation that you have that you love to ask? And if so, I'd love to know why and, of course, what that is.
Well, I don't always ask it in the way that I used to, but one of the questions that I love to ask is to hear what my guests would tell their younger self, whatever version of that younger means, whether it's last week or, you know, quite a bit, quite a bit younger. And there's something about that vantage point of the wisdom we hold today and our capacity to really go back and, I would say, tend and mend the hearts of our younger selves, those wounded places within us, or those are still, I'm going to say, choked by the lies or the constraints that have been placed on us. So I,
Mhm.
I always love the wisdom. There is a purity and there is like a heart resonance that always comes through when someone answers that question. So I love that.
Yeah, I do too. And especially when you start to see the softening, how much softer we become, the more we accept ourselves, the more we
Mm.
step into that space of sovereignty and of understanding our value. You can be so much sweeter to your inner child, like you said, to the woman you were last week, to
Hmm.
whomever and wherever you are and how you show up. It's there's just this lovely, sweet, nurturing energy. At least that's been my experience. Where
Yes.
before it would have been much more judgmental and harsh and insecure and trying to validate somebody or somebody else, someone else. So,
Yeah. Yes, I know that one. Yes.
mhm,
And I would also say that many times, it's only through later reflection that we can see the parts of us that felt most judgmental towards were really, in a way, our greatest gifts or our greatest gems. So to be able to
mm,
celebrate the ways that perhaps we were different or didn't quite fit the mold,
yes.
the ways we made others uncomfortable, that, that those are really the most awesome parts of who we are.
Yeah, they really, well, they absolutely are.
Yes,
When those blind spots become a vision, when you can see that picture, it's just such a blessing.
it is. And to be able to fully inhabit that and to celebrate it. And I remember hearing you speak about, I think it's safe to say, or you don't mind me saying, that you are a big presence and a big personality.
Hmm.
And I remember you sharing in on your podcast about how you got messaging around that wasn't okay, but you have come to own that and revel in it. And it's part of what I appreciate about you, and it's part of what makes you terrific at what you do.
Well, thank you very much. The excavation of that one in me, I'm so very grateful. She's unearthed now, and
Yes.
that when I hear the term motor mouth, it doesn't send me to my third grade teacher in the corner getting my knuckles cracked with a ruler. Now I can find some
Yeah.
humor in that. And then also learn how to have that much energy and take up that much space without dwarfing the people that I share time with, because you can have that big energy and you can be fully present in that without taking anything away from anyone else.
Yes. It is that learning. And I think that's true for most of our gifts, that there is this honing of them, or this refining to bring them to their greatest ability to contribute. But yes, like you had a lot to say, and you have a lot to say, and we welcome that.
Right? Well, I'm glad. Thank you.
Yeah.
My husband and daughter might feel differently some days, but that's all right. I'd love to know, who were some of your favorite interviews with? I know that you love all of them, and you've had some
Yes.
fantastic, fascinating women that you've shared time with. But I gotta think that there's a few favorites that come forward for you.
Yes. Well, it's interesting because one that comes to mind is a mentor of mine, Janet Evergreen, and her episode was number 39. And I interviewed her at one of the most challenging times of my life. And I remember questioning whether it was right or not to do the interview. So as you're bringing up this idea of showing up, as transparent or being real or
Mm-hmm.
authentic, I think that was a breakthrough interview for me, to be so kind of broken, open, and vulnerable, and also in my capacity to do the interview and to be with her. I wasn't a puddle on the floor, but there was the space of the both and
Sure.
one of the pieces I still remember from her interview was her stating that the value of society or community or family holding the space for us as women to go into retreat or sanctuary,
Yeah.
and her really being both a model of that. And it's fascinating because she just came out of a 3-month silent retreat
Wow.
just days ago, that she started before this whole COVID thing unfolded. I have been so plugged into her and tuned into her throughout the course of these last 3 months. And her husband has been the one holding the space for her and 2 others to do this 3-month-long silent retreat. And there's something about that to me feels so groundbreaking and
Oh,
so
yeah.
like, this is huge.
Oh, yeah. The longest silent retreat I ever did was 4 days.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a big deal. And it was, I mean, it was a wonderful experience, but 3 months, wow, wow, wow.
Yes. There's something about that. Just to know that there are women, there are beings in the world that are holding the space in a way for the rest of us through
Mm,
that kind of service
yeah,
is feels really meaningful and important. Um, so there are many interviews that have touched me deeply, but that was the one that just said, I need to share about that.
sure.
Yes.
Speaking of holding space and the way women are showing up right now, one of the things that I've noticed over the last 2 months is the so much generosity and the willingness to hold circles and to do things, uh, because there's this deep knowing of how much we need it and how much we need to be able to stay connected, even if we are silent, and to have a place to
Mm-hmm.
rage, to have a place to cry, to have a place to laugh, uh, whatever it may be. The gamut of emotions have been really all over the place for most of the women that I've spoken with, and I suspect it's been the same for you as well. and how we have come together as a soul community. It just seems like one woman after the next, at least in the virtual circle and in my community, has come forward at times, like almost exactly when I needed to hear whatever they had to say in that moment or whatever they didn't say. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's been really something, and I'm grateful for it, for every bit of it.
We have been in the pressure cooker, and it's bringing pieces to the surface, but it's also like the diamond
Hmm.
that becomes a diamond through the pressure.
Right. Right.
So it's that, yeah, it is that, both the reaching out and the digging deep into resource that we didn't know we had in us, and accessing support from around us as well seems so vital, but also natural in a way, as you said, as women have been coming forward and being present. I was sick for 2 weeks at the start of the COVID crisis, and I wasn't certain if that's what it was. It was very atypical symptoms, but the whole passage for me was really about receptivity and allowing myself to open to receive, whether it was healing or love or support or assistance, in ways that I probably had never done before, because
Hmm.
I don't get sick. That's not, that's not
Right.
my MO.
Two of my dearest friends had symptoms and things going on right at the beginning as well. And my anxiety slayer partner, Ananga, and her daughter both
Mm,
had it and have
mm,
healed and are on the other side of the experience. And my friend Jennifer locally isn't 100% sure. She wasn't tested,
mm-hmm,
but is pretty sure that
mm-hmm,
she also went through the experience. And it's just one of the things that came up for me and is I felt very prepared for this in a
mm-hmm,
way that, and I don't mean that in, oh, I have my shit together, I'm so prepared. I don't mean it like that. I mean, the herbs that I already have on hand, the
mm,
essential oils that I already have on hand, my
yes,
practices that I already take, part in, all of the everything I needed was right here. And I
yes,
was so freaking grateful for that, Joni, because it was just like, oh yeah, I've
yes,
been harvesting this and I've been making this tincture and I've been doing these things. This is just my way. And
mm,
now I have these things and I can help my neighbors and I can help my family and
mm,
at least offer supportive tonics and things as well as just having a fire and safe distancing with our neighbor, and the ways that we talk over the fence and support each other, and the ways that we show up as neighbors, which we live in a very small community and are very blessed to have that old school
mm,
neighbor connection with every home like directly around us in a circle. We pretty
wow,
much know everyone, and we're not in each other's business all the time, but we all know each other and like each other, and on occasion get together and just checking in. And what do you need? And how can I be of service? And knowing and having what somebody else needs and them having something that you might need. And it's been pretty awesome in that regard.
yes. And what strikes me is that idea of, A, that it's all right here, that you had it, and B, that we'll say your younger self or your past self
Hmm.
was putting up the preparations for you that you would need for this time.
Yeah.
And for me, that is the essence of sacred feminine flow. It's that there is both the inner wisdom, which is operating many times just out of our conscious awareness, that has
Right.
us have the instinct to do this, or the thought, oh well, I'm going to take care of that, and the external, like the external or the larger sacred feminine flow, which is the flow of resources and well-being and grace and right timing of the person you need is right there at the right time.
Yeah. So much synchronicity, so much.
Yes.
When I think of that, when I think of sacred feminine flow, I do. And of course, that was going to be a question that I was going to ask you is what does that mean to you? Because I know what it meant to you 4 years ago, and I know that it's become an even richer version of itself since then.
Yes.
But that, oh my gosh, I mean, I just think of, I've been collecting spring water for 8 years, 7 or 8 years, and we have a spring on our land, and then we have a favorite spring that's not on our land. Anyway, just to constantly have spring water, and living water, and just anyway. Like, okay, this is so cool to be
It's
able
baffling.
It is baffling to have Lake Michigan nearby, to have the spring water, to have the herbs that just show up in the wild that I need exactly when I need them. The motherwort that showed up for a number of years that said, okay, I'm here. Are you going to make some tincture? Are you going to do, hey, have you looked into motherwort? Boy, it might be something that would be really good for you right now. Or, oh, the next thing, oh, well, how did that wild comfrey get in my yard? Thank you to the birds or whatever that put it there.
Right.
I could go on and on and on about these synchronicities and this flow and just allowing for it and being open to it and knowing that if we allow ourselves to be still and invite it in, it's going to show up. It is easy to miss, but that allowing piece is so big.
It is the allowing, and also I would say the trust.
Oh, yes.
Because the just being predisposed to the assumption that it will be there, which is the trust.
The trust, which is such a big part in all of our journeys, is that trust piece for each and every one of us.
Huge.
I remember many years ago being in conversation and saying something like, I don't trust anyone, and being like really proud of that. Like, I don't trust anyone. I'm just, I trust myself. And I can say that now and giggle and whatever, because I know that was a form of insecurity and protecting myself, and it was also from being betrayed and all of the things that that happen in our lives or whatever. And now that position on trust has changed so very much, and I'm incredibly grateful to be coming much more from a trusting place than I ever have been before. And that's not to say that it's an everyday thing, because there are still things that come up. And I think to a degree that are good, that I don't just completely drop all boundaries and let everything in and
right. Discernment.
Yes, discernment. Huge.
Discernment and trust need to go hand in hand.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Oh, man. So you have a number of really cool things coming up that we ought to talk about today. You have, of course, your podcast promotion and celebration of the 100 episodes. I know you've got some trust talks coming and some giveaways, and I think you even have a new ebook. So tell us all about all of these wonderful things that you've been dreaming up.
Well, speaking of trust, yes. So for the final 2 weeks of June, each day I'm going to release a new episode of Trust Talks, which is bringing together some of my old guests and a couple of my future guests to just speak to trust and the issue of trust in their lives and in their journey. And particularly because we are at this crossroads collectively, and all that's stirring up for each of us individually, I do believe that faith and trust is central to how do we move forward. And so to really immerse ourselves in that question and just see what gets broken free, what gets
Yeah.
through that. So I'm so delighted to have some of my former guests joining me. They came forward gladly, and a number of them are also sharing some. They have amazing gifts that they want to share, that
Cool.
we are going to be raffling off as we help spread the word even further about trust your sacred feminine flow. And so if you join us, you can follow me on Instagram is one way to do it, or on Facebook, both at Joni Advent Maher. I have a dear friend who has Egyptian oil set. It's a set of 8 Egyptian oils. They are her formula of bloom essential oils
Oh,
that
beautiful.
she works with an alchemist in Egypt. She's been to Egypt 3 times now, and someone from an ancient lineage. And these are oils that connect with each of the main 7 chakras.
Mm,
So we have those. We have a beautiful bracelet from the Awaken collection that my dear friend Kira Poulsen donated. We have some amazing books. Lucy Pierce is donating a copy of Burning Woman,
nice.
which, yes, and some other books and lots of sessions. So there are just incredible gifts that are still pouring
That's
in.
so cool. Good for you.
Yes, and
What a way, what a way to celebrate and give back to your listeners and your community, and to also bring forward these women who have made such a difference, and to reintroduce them to some of your newer people in your community and listeners. That's so cool.
yes, and I feel like one of my great passions, and it's part of why I love doing my podcast, is I'm going to say being in the river, like standing in the river and what's coming through to get to share it. So,
Yeah.
the prosperity that's coming through, to be able to share it generously with my listeners and with the women of the world is when I'm in like the most joy. So,
Right on. And you're also developing a new ebook at the same time.
yes, yes. It's so funny. I had this download at the beginning of the year that it was like, it's time to create a book. It's time to write a book. And I love it. It's called The Radiance Equation,
Mm,
The Visionary's Guide to Coming Out of Hiding,
right
Owning
on.
Your Wisdom, and Creating Your Greatest Impact.
That's
And it
awesome.
Yes, it is really my love letter to all of us. It is my love letter about really owning who you are and the brilliance of who you are. And it came together so, in a way, easily, and it really is like divine downloads coming
Mm,
through me. So it's less me writing it and more me being the conduit. So
sure.
I'm super excited, and women can access it actually for free. I'm giving it away for free right now at theradianceequation.com.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes.
Congratulations so much
Yay.
to
Yay.
celebrate.
Yes.
Before we close out today, what message would you like to leave all of your lovely listeners with?
Well, certainly, I love you. And I'm so honored and grateful to have you be a part of my journey. And also to say, my deepest prayer for you is that you can know, that you can see and accept and allow and embrace the brilliance of who you are just as you are, without needing to change, improve, fix, just just as you are in this moment, no matter how together or messy you happen to be.
Right on.
Yes.
And of course, to always trust
Yes.
what your heart knows.
Yes, thank you. Always trust what your heart knows. Right. And it's back to the trust.
Yes.
And your heart does know.
Thank you so much. I'm really, really flattered that I had the opportunity to interview you for your own show. And I look forward to the next 100 podcasts of Trust Your Sacred Feminine Flow. I'm
Yes.
grateful to be in partnership with you and producing and supporting you on your journey. And thank you so much for all that you do and all that you are.
My pleasure. And thank you. I'm doing the deep bow. Thank you for all of your support over these years and your wisdom and being just a champion for all of us getting our voices out. That is part of what you are, leading the charge, and I so appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Trust Your Sacred Feminine Flow. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend and be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. And visit theradianceequation.com to receive your copy of The Radiance Equation, a visionary's guide to coming out of hiding, owning your wisdom, and creating your greatest impact.